Hello, it's Saturday and we've had an incredibly busy day here. It's been manic all day. We've been using the Quaker meeting rooms down in the centre of Keswick because there's been so much going on and so many people here. It's been absolutely lovely. Back at HQ now. If we have a look around, we're in a quiet time of day. We're going out for a meal later, but we're just trying to get a few jobs done here. Let's see who's around. There's lots of big boxes of leaflets being churned. There's Andy, the campaign manager, over there. Are you in shot? And Steve?
Hello.
Hi, up, hanging out in between a long day's delivering and going out for the meal. Elizabeth Barraclough over there, she's our chair, and she's been working her socks off. And just loads and loads of boxes of leaflets and stuff being churned around. But while I am waiting for some questions to come in, I hope they'll come in, I don't know, everyone might not be on Facebook at the minute, but we'll see. I'll tell you a little bit about today. We've had Sal Brinton here, and she is, you've got to have some stars in the sky, people you look up to, and she is certainly the key one of mine. She's one of the brightest in politics. She's often on question time and has the most succinct and effective answers. And she's our party president, and she's somebody that everyone listens to, not just in our party, but across a lot of parties too. So she came up and met some of the troops, but not that many of them were here because it's just so far. We've got groups of people out in Seascale delivering, groups of people out in Millom delivering, all over the place. And for them to come up to Keswick to meet Sal would have just taken most of their day out, so they just didn't. But it was still a lovely event. So if any of those people who are out delivering are listening, big thank you to all of you guys. So I had an hour of Sal's time that I was allowed to do what I wanted with. For me, that's magic, because it gave us a chance to bring Copeland to life and do something useful here. I stood in this campaign because I really wanted to get Copeland's agenda heard, our issues, and as we are heard and connected to Westminster. So I took the chance to invite quite a few of our key medical staff in Copeland along to meet Sal, to try and have an interesting and productive conversation and see what she could do to help us. And it was just fantastic. I'm so proud to be part of Copeland. I would say there were two sides to the meeting. One is that you had people there who were really struggling to contain their emotions about because of the stress of what's going on. They were telling stories of very recent cases of where mothers and babies would have died if they hadn't had close care. So that was part of it, and that's to do with the success regime. And it always seems to be going on here that we're getting initiatives coming from outside Copeland that are being forced through, and they're not cost effective, they'll have no positive income, they'll have no positive impact. Thanks for your question, George. I've just seen that. I'm just going to chat for a little bit and then I'll start trying to some questions. And so much time and energy is taken up trying to fend off really bad ideas that people think are good ideas but will just be a disaster and won't save any money. So it's part of life here. Thanks. But the other side is that we have stuff going on here that is just so special, and people who are so inspirational and innovative. So we have people who do our consultants do an awful lot of general work. So they're hugely multi-skilled, and they all know each other. So they talk about general issues with a perspective you don't get in most places where people are extreme specialists. And they are absolute experts in their field in other places, and I have huge respect for that. But we have these people who just have the big picture and can think about the big picture and come up with ideas of how to change things. And that's always inspired me in Copeland. My background is in education, and we had the same thing going on there. Our leaders in education were innovating and doing stuff that we knew would work, and just getting on and doing it, and doing stuff that was really world-beating. I remember the first school where I went to interview, which was Wyndham. The head of maths there went on to head up the Open University maths education department, and everyone came to us to see what we were doing because it was just so good. And that's the spirit that managed to emerge in this meeting and today, and that's the part of the meeting I want to talk about, because people were talking with such energy and passion about what we could do here. There's already some great work going on in training GPs. They've come up with a concept of training GPs with a specialism, so they do 4 years training instead of 3, but they come out trained and skilled to do a specialism in West Cumbria General Hospital as well as being a GP. So you might have a GP who's can do elective caesarean sections or something like that. And it's been really popular because they've just tapped into something that newly qualified medics want. They want to be GPs and do that. They want but the best of both worlds. So that's really successful. And then there's so many people here who talk about our need to have specialist training for general paediatricians and general obstetricians, and even joint trainings across these fields, because that's what's needed in rural areas. And they were talking about how this could work and how we could be a national centre of excellence and train not only people in Britain, because it would be really good if some of our city hospitals, the senior doctors there had experience in doing more general medicine, because they tend to specialise and specialise and specialise and then get promoted into a role where they've got oversight of lots of different disciplines. But it would be good as part of their development towards having a senior managerial role, they've been a general consultant. So it'd be great for the UK, but they were also talking about how we could train people from around the world who need that kind of training, and have a real industry going on here. And they were talking about how we could, that plans to create a dementia village here in West Cumbria, and how that could work. And it was just such a joy and a privilege to be there and to listen to them, and to have been able to create an atmosphere in which they can be themselves again. Because this is the West Cumbria that I know and love. And when you're thinking about being an MP here, a lot of people think just about the problems, because there are so many challenges for the MP of Copeland to face. But there is also this colossal culture of just tremendously inspirational people who are great people and natural communicators, and they're polymaths. They know so many different fields, and it's just such a privilege to be around them and work with them. It gives you tremendous energy. And so yeah, I think being MP of Copeland, well, there's obviously the ordinary stuff, but there's this light and shade, the tremendous challenges, but also this energy and inspiration. It would just be such a privilege to get behind people. And they were able to chat to Baroness Brinton about some of these innovations they've got going on and how there are critical deadlines and what the bodies they're talking to are. And she knew the same bodies. That some of it went over my head at this stage, and they were talking about, could she chat to such and such to get to make sure that people are aware of how good this is. And she was so happy to do that. And that's what a lot of Liberal Democrat politics is. It's so quiet and behind the scenes and just getting stuff done that you never see the headlines of, but it's just such a privilege to be part of. So if people want to spend time sending some questions, I'll get to those in just a minute. But before I do, I just wanted to talk about, people were really talking about how absolutely brilliant our nurses are, because most of them are local and most of them live here long term, and the quality of our nursing is wonderful. So just wanted to share that praise. Our nurses and our midwives. And the other thing that people were incredibly positive about was the work going on by UCLan, the local university, who've been helping with a lot of this innovation relating to training. And that's something I've heard consistently throughout the success regime consultation. Just such praise for that organisation. So I wanted to share that too. Okay, let us see what we've got coming in. I'm not sure, can I scroll back in some of these questions? If I go back to George's first question, what is your strategy to ensure we remain at least in the single market? Well, I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago where Tim and Lord Gorman and Felix talking about this in action, and they are coming up with all sorts of things. A lot of them at this stage are quite tenuous. They're not sure which of them will be runners and which won't. So they're working on that. But I also want to say that a lot of my thinking is not just to do with trying to keep us in the single market, because we may not be able to stay in. And it's, if we do leave the single market, about representing people and making sure that as things change very quickly, that those issues get heard in Westminster, and that we try to protect our businesses in particular from being lost due to short-term changes when they're structurally sound and they need to be protected. So we get strategies in place to protect them. What have we got going on here? You've been having your own conversation. This means yeah. Thank you for that, Tobias. In education, it's extremely important that kids to have a polite culture and knowledge. Hi, Hristo. Yep, and I think it's also, we were also talking today about adolescent mental health, because there's a real crisis here in West Cumbria. Various schools have put in bids to have funding to have services in schools, and all those funding bids have failed. And on top of that, the money is no longer there for school nurses, and people are extremely worried about that. They say we've got to have the money coming directly to schools or for services, and it's got to be ring-fenced, and it's just not there, and there's such a crisis in adolescent mental health, which is something I care tremendously about. How are you going to persuade Brexit voters to vote for you? Well, first of all, I listen to them, find out why they voted for Brexit, because it depends on why they voted for Brexit as to how I'm going to talk to them and have that conversation and see where we can go. If they voted for Brexit because they absolutely believe that they need to drain the swamp of expertise and get rid of all the people who, some people are anarchic libertarians, and they just believe if you get rid of everything that we know and understand, everything will get better. And I have to say, I'm not going to be able to persuade those people to vote for me, because that's not what I believe, but I would just be proud to represent them if I did get elected anyway. But most people have very different views. A lot have very specific reasons for voting for Brexit, and when we talk about the details of those, we make a connection. And even if they don't particularly like my views on Brexit, they often talk to me at length about education and health and flooding and rural issues and nuclear issues. And then on balance, they're often persuaded to vote for me. I mean, the response has just been amazing. It's so nice being at meeting people. And then there's a group of people who voted Brexit because they believed the lies. They believed the money would flood in for the NHS, and they're not taking much persuading to vote for me. Can you share a bit about your campaigning activities tomorrow and next week? Did you already cover this? I missed it. Lot of canvassing, a lot being out on the doorstep, being in very visible places, in front of supermarkets, schools at closing times. We've got some press coming up. Who's the Channel 4 guy, Andy?
Michael Crick. Michael
Crick is coming. Apparently that's something I need to be geared up for. I don't know much about Michael Crick, but my campaign team seemed to. And then what have we got? We're filming for the Sunday Politics on Wednesday. So we should be... Yeah, nuclear hustings, that's scheduled for Wednesday, although that's not confirmed yet. The GMB are organising a nuclear hustings. I don't know. I'm struggling to keep track of my own diary. I think next Saturday morning I might be down at regional conference, but just very briefly. I'll be mainly up here. Very brief. Not much. I'll be out of home at the minute. What else? Do you think the Welsh Education Secretary delivering the Lib Dem manifesto will hay our fight back nationwide? I'm sorry. Does anyone know what that? Welsh Education. I'm going to have to leave that one for now. What is the number one failure, if any, in your opinion, of our state schooling system? Thank you. Anarchic libertarianism. This view that if you don't listen to teachers and get rid of all the experts and write policy on the back of an envelope, everything will get better. I mean, what were the Tories thinking of letting Michael Gove loose? Did they not just look at him and go, no? I was like, how did they decide that this man was a good idea and would make a positive contribution to state education? I think you'd better not. I'll come back to education another night. What support do you need from other Lib Dems? What can you do, Michael? Can you get phone banking for a start? You're going to come up here and help. Tell me more about what might be possible. There's I'm going to have to get organised and get some flashcards with our sign-up pages. But if you go to Copeland NHS, there should be sign-up pages so you can volunteer to do different things. Donate! We're desperately trying to get some more paid-for mailings out. Please donate money. Focus on local issues and require your team to work to what extent some of them... Success of the campaign. Thank you, Risto. Can you do some phone banking as well, please? And donate. Can you say something about the campaigns of the other parties in Copeland? How are you doing? Well, the Tories are clearly trying to focus on collapsing the Labour vote and are attacking Labour very hard on indeed. So they have attacked, they've presented themselves as being strong on nuclear, and the Labour as being weak on nuclear because they're picking up on Jeremy Corbyn being personally anti-nuclear, which doesn't go down well round here at all. So that's what they're doing, but they've really shot themselves in the foot this week because they've presented the white paper for the Brexit bill. They've decided to pull out of Euratom. Now, Euratom underpins the way we do nuclear. It underpins the international agreements and the standards and so on, and it's just complete. There's no reason for pulling out of it apart from it's linked to the EU, therefore it's got to go. I was just looking at this going, no, this will just be chaos. It just doesn't make any sense. There's no positive benefits whatsoever to pulling out of Euratom. And the Tories have suddenly gone very quiet on nuclear, and I'm speaking up and saying this loudly in the press. So their strategy of bigging themselves up on nuclear and putting Labour down has suddenly gone pear-shaped. So good. And Labour have been going for the Tories on the NHS. But that hasn't gone down brilliantly well either, because they've been making various claims that have not gone down well locally on social media. I don't want to lay into other parties, so I'll leave that there. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Timothy. It says, it's telling me Sue Wilson and one other have just shared your video. Let them know you appreciate. I appreciate you sharing my video. Thank you. Please share my video. Any advice on how to get into a career in politics? somebody who never ever imagined having a career in politics at 44 and is suddenly not sure I'm best placed to give that advice. So I would say focus on learning a profession and being and taking career journeys. Have a life before you become a politician. Build a career, fail in things, pick yourself up again, get going again. Build your personal life, fail in that, pick yourself up, get going again. Do all those things that people have to do. Learn about life and society. And then join the Lib Dems, get involved with your local party, go along to conference, and hang around the stand at conference for the whatever you do in your career for that interest group and get to know people there. You can win nuclear workers with what I gave you on Euratom. Okay, thanks. We're winning nuclear workers anyway, and hopefully that'll continue. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. Were you privately educated? No. I grew up in suburban Newcastle, and I went to a very tough sink school there, and then got lucky and managed to get placed at a state school in Whitley Bay. So I went out to school in Whitley Bay, and I'm a Whitley Bay High School girl. Can you tell us? Oh, Julie, more people. Julie has shared the video. Thank you, Julie. Can anyone else share the video, please? Can you tell us a bit about what you have been doing work-wise before deciding to become a candidate? Okay, so I taught secondary maths in quite a few of the schools in Copeland, and then I was a lecturer in education, training trainee teachers for secondary maths at Manchester Metropolitan University and for the Open University. And then I set up my own business, and these days I run primary teacher training. I go into schools and teach them how to teach the new curriculum effectively. So that means working with apparatus and really simple representations that help all the kids kind of be able to really see the maths and touch it and feel it, and therefore make sense of the numbers. Maybe we'll have an evening when I show you some of the math stuff I do, and people generally find it interesting. So we might do a little bit of that if you like. If you fancy that, then let me know in the comments. The Liberal Democrats won't get a majority government, though. That's what I don't understand. Why do you do all this? Not being argumentative or a troll, but why would you go with this particular party? Well, I wanted to have a positive impact on education policy, and the Lib Dems were the only party that were doing that, because they're so focused on reality and pragmatism, just value based. There's an underpinning value base that's really clear. If you Google the Lib Dem preamble to the Constitution, you get a sense of that we all buy into, and then we look at the world and try and make sense of it and try and get it run in the interests of people according to that value base, and that works for me. I find that hugely motivating and exciting, and I don't find that energy or passion, I don't get it from what the other parties are doing, and certainly not in this area. So that's why I have to be there. It's the only place that I can really make sense of being in politics, and you don't have to have a majority in government to be influential if you are just really narrating the real world. If you're talking about reality and you're on committees, you can influence things. Heck of a lot of policy that's presented by the Labour Party and the Tories is actually Lib Dem policy, and we just submit it and they say, well, we're in power, we're not going to give you credit for it, but if we can present it as being ours, if you withdraw it and we present it, then we'll put it through. And that's hugely satisfying. For me, it's not about the glory and it's not about the power. And if there was someone around who was better standing to be an MP and I could just work in the background and work through them, I'd be perfectly happy. But I'm just standing up to be counted because it seemed to be, people told me it needed to be me. what do the Lib Dems like the least about the EU, and what is the best opportunity, however slight, in Brexit for the UK? So the Lib Dems get incredibly frustrated by the intractability and the bureaucracy of the EU and how difficult it is to get inefficient things changed quickly. I mean, we've been discussing this for years, which is why I understand it so well. And people, no, you don't. I don't think there's anywhere you hear the complaints about the EU in more detail than the Lib Dems. And what opportunity, however slight, in Brexit for the UK? So people talk about getting control, and that means that some of those intractable inefficiencies we could, in theory, run better. It's just in practice we will need a bureaucratic administration that is so much greater than anything we've ever had before through the EU. So the idea everything's going to be more efficient, we're going to save money, is just deeply flawed. Congratulations, this is your most commented on live video yet. Yay! Caleb Burnett. I live in the US and I still support the Lib Dems. Hope you win. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And is there any support that we can give for you at the minute? Because I imagine you're not in political heaven at the minute. My request not to do any maths. I suggested I might if you requested it, and the response is please no maths. Okay. What ideas do you have to get a high voter turnout? Well, the first thing is that the Conservative literature in particular is trying to suppress turnout. Their strategy is if we destabilise the Labour vote and make people not confident about turning out to vote for Labour, will therefore get elected, the Tories, because they were only just behind the Labour in the last election. So they are trying to suppress the vote and get a low turnout and make their voters turn out. That's not what we're doing. I'm trying to inspire people and say, hey, come on, we could do a really good job here. I'm really passionate about doing this job. I'm worth coming out for your vote. Please come out and vote for me and be proud to vote for me. Even if you've never voted before, just... Sometimes it feels like things couldn't get any worse, but they really could. And this is a chance to make things better by electing yourself a decent MP for Copeland who will work her socks off and do it the best job she can possibly do and has relevant experience. So trying to boost voter turnout by giving people somebody to vote for that they can be proud of. Strange seeing someone on my phone while they are sat a couple... Hello, Steve.
Hello.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Thank you for your compliment, Danielle. Nice specs. Thanks, Dan. What aspect of Brexit are you finding resonates most in Copeland? Well, certainly this week it's been the Euratom issue. Suddenly people are waking up and realising that is just one tiny strand of hard Brexit and what colossal implications it has. And you've still got all these people in the radio shouting, yeah, we knew exactly what we were voting for and we voted for it. And anyone said lying. And okay, so explain what the implications are for pulling out of your... But the radio interviews don't seem to be saying that. I think they should. How do you respond to the voter on the doorstep who says, we want to control our borders? I talk about the complexity of immigration issues. We talk about how there are positive benefits of but there are also substantial issues and disadvantages, and that tends to lead into a detailed conversation. There's so many aspects of this, and we talk about how the Lib Dems are not about free borders or anything like that. That's not the point. It's just about trying to find the best policies to manage society in our interests. Good approach. Hi, Christine. Thanks. Good approach to be positive when you meet people face to face. Well done. Anyway, I'm living at the coast. Oh, you live? Where are you living? Are you in Whitley Bay? Would I be right in saying that we have no constitution or Bill of Human Rights in the UK system? No. Yes, I think you are. I may be completely misinformed, but I was told that came from Brussels. The human rights. See more. Can I see more? Or is this going to... oh, here we go.
Yes, and you walk through the market square and keep to the right when you leave the market square.
There's a Tory government out of the... Yeah. I mean, this is one of the problems of Brexit. Everything is going to get better because the Tories in Westminster will have complete control. It's like... And that is good. Why? And I've expanded that comment, so... I can't see so clearly now. Paul Benjamin. Tell us a bit more about the GMB hustings next week. What do you expect? Well, I'm not sure that next week confirmation. The initial date is Wednesday night, but there are a couple of backup dates. I haven't finished yet. The GMB is one of the main unions at Sellafield, and this is a nuclear hustings. They're going to be inviting all the nuclear workers and their families. And I'm just looking forward to it because I know my stuff. And I know that the audience will be interested to hear someone who talks in detail and fluently about the reality of the world of nuclear energy up here and our issues. It's people in the press talk a lot about what party policy and party lines are, but the reality is that at Sellafield we have really complex issues that defy party policy because they're unique. People talk a lot about nuclear energy and how unsafe it is, but our issues at Sellafield dwarf the safety issues to do with nuclear new builds, and there's an awful lot here that's just known and understood by the communities. So it'll be intimate and detailed, and I'm just really looking forward to it. Ah, you're in Tynemouth, Risto. So, do you remember the slogan? Spend a day at Whitley Bay and take a trip to Tynemouth. Great advertising slogan for the coast in the northeast. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing my video with your friends watching it now. Okay. Does the conversation on immigration ever end up with a discussion on demographics? Not necessarily using that term, obviously. How the NHS is struggling with an ageing population. Yeah, it goes everywhere. It's really unpredictable. I like to let people guide the conversations by their interests. Christine says, will all candidates speak at the GMB hustings? I hope so. I don't know. Haven't been told. Do you think we should have a progressive alliance with other parties? Yeah, where it's appropriate to keep the Tories out, I think we should. Quite difficult to achieve in practice, though. And there we go. I've just got to the bottom of the question, so that seems like a good time to stop. And we are going out for a meal now, so you won't be hearing from me later this evening, but I should be back online tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Hugely appreciate it. If you want to support us, I need to do the Ant and Deck bit where I learn to quote all the places that people should go. Perhaps that's my challenge for tonight, ready for tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.